Hi everybody, the purpose of this video is to talk about what levels of measurement are in quantitative research, how they connect to basic data analysis ideas, and how they connect to survey questions. I'll say up front that capturing all of this in one video compared to what is typically done in classes where you might spend an entire semester or an entire year on quantitative data analysis means that I'm going to be skimming the surface and really no more than that. So please do take all of the resources that you have in terms of their connection to improvement science, as well as your understanding of these concepts from this video, but also other videos and texts and resources that you have to together compile a sense of some of the basic ideas here. The purpose of this course is more surveying main ideas in quantitative research, so we're not going to get too deep into quantitative data analysis, but I am going to give you some basic ideas here. When we talk about levels of measurement, we are talking about the way a variable is operationalized, how it's put together, how it approaches measuring quantitative data. There are 4 levels of measurement: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. They are in this order from least complex to most complex. So nominal variables are the least complex, ratio variables are the most complex or most nuanced. You can think of these like a staircase, with each level a step up on the staircase. So the nominal, this is the least complex level of measurement. And this is a variable that is categorical in nature, and the categories cannot be ranked. Examples include variables like gender, race, ethnicity, maybe region of the country where you live. And you can see down here I have these ideas of there are 2 main splits among the 4 levels of measurement. Nominal and ordinal variables are grouped into this categorical option. Interval and ratio are scale variables. So you can think of categorical variables as variables that have, as you might expect, categories. So for example, if we're looking at a race ethnicity variable, we will have different categories that someone can select on a survey. It's not like a range from 0 to 100. These are different categories of race ethnicity options. However, we are not ranking them in any kind of order at all. These are simply separate categories. They are different in name only. Think of name and nom for nominal. In contrast, ordinal variables are categorical in nature. The categories can be ranked. Maybe it would be helpful to say categories up here. So a very common version is a Likert type variable. You could also see like socioeconomic status in this. So imagine socioeconomic status. If we take this here, what if we say working class, middle class, upper class? This is a very simplistic version of socioeconomic status, and certainly not something that most people would use, but this is just showing that these are different categories, and we can put them in some kind of order from kind of lower SES to higher SES. Similarly, the Likert type variable, which is strongly disagree, disagree, neutral, agree, strongly agree, and other derivations of that, those are categories and they can be ranked. Therefore, it's an ordinal level variable. Now, if we move into the scale variables, or sometimes we would also call this continuous variables, we have the interval variable. So this is scale or continuous. So think of a range of numbers, like 24 to 345, or 0 to 100 or something like that. But there is, in an interval variable, not a meaningful 0. A really common one for this is temperature. So think of degrees Fahrenheit. If there is 0 degrees Fahrenheit, that does not mean an absence of heat or an absence of temperature. There's still a temperature associated with it. It's just pretty cold. So a meaningful 0 means that 0 equals absence of something. So 0 degrees Fahrenheit doesn't mean an absence of temperature. Like I said, it's just another marker along that scale. One way to usually see if there's a meaningful 0, this doesn't work every single time, but if you see a scale, range of scores, where 0 is somewhere in the middle, that is one possible sign that it is not a meaningful 0. You can see temperature goes negative, so 0 is just one score on that scale. Ratio is very similar to interval. In fact, these are often grouped together. It's a scale, continuous variable that does have a meaningful 0. So you might think of money. That's a great option here. There are many other ratio variable options too that are like an absence of something. When we talk about an absence of money, it means if I have $0, I'm broke. I don't have any money. It's not that that's just another indicator of this broader scale of money. It's simply I don't have money. There are lots of ratio variables that fit into this, but that meaningful 0 is the absence of something. Again, we're talking about a range of scores. Sometimes you might also think about these in terms of points on a test. So if my range is 0 to 100 and I got 0, that means I got an absence of points toward, I still have a grade, but an absence of points on my test would be an example of a ratio level variable. Interval and ratio level variables are often grouped together because of how similar they are. Now, I do want to mention here that when it comes to quantitative data analysis, because of the level of measurement, these variables operate on different, actually I'll group interval ratio together. They operate on different approaches to what we can do with data analysis. Now, because nominal variables cannot be ranked or put in any sort of order, we can't conduct a median, we can't conduct an average, certainly not an average. So if we are taking just the basic ideas of descriptive statistics and specifically measures of central tendency, which I hope you remember this from grade school, mean, median, mode. The only one that we can do with a nominal level variable is mode. We can talk about the most common category, but I can't do mean or median because I can't take an average of categories that I can't rank. And median is the middle of like ranked categories or the middle of a scale. I can't do that either with nominal variables. Now, because ordinal level variables do have some kind of rank to them, I can conduct a median. And also anything I can conduct on the lower levels of measurement, I can conduct at higher levels of measurement too. But I still can't take an average. If these are separate categories, like on a Likert type variable, for example, I can't take an average of different categories. That doesn't make actual sense. It doesn't make conceptual sense for how I approach that. I'll show that in a second with some of the survey questions I'll pull up. Finally, with a scale score, you can conduct a mean. and then of course all the other things here for the lower levels of measurement too. Again, there are so many other things that you can do with quantitative data, not just descriptive statistics, and certainly not only central tendency measures, but this is kind of where most folks start. So when you're trying to understand your level of measurement, it also connects to what data analysis technique you can use on it. It is inappropriate to use a mean on an ordinal variable or a mean on a nominal variable. You could probably conduct it in your statistical software, but it won't actually make any sense. So for example, if we look at these survey questions, and just pulled this from a class activity I did a couple years ago, so these are not related to this class specifically, we can look at the levels of measurement for these survey questions. I'm going to get past the initial questions here. Would you classify yourself as an early career, mid-career, or late career teacher with these possible options? You can see these are separate categories: early career, mid-career, late career, and they can be ranked in some kind of order, from least experience to most experience. So this is an ordinal level variable. It would be appropriate for me to either conduct a median or a mode in this case once I got that information. Let's see. Here's an example. How would you rate your anxiety level teaching during the COVID-19? That the probably shouldn't be there during COVID-19. This is a scale variable, and you can see this. It's literally got a scale in it from 0 to 100. Now, it also has some categories in here, so this is a little confusing. But these categories are mostly meant to show people, here's how you can rank yourself from 0 to 100, that there is some conceptual connection between low and high, medium, and the middle, and that when they take the cursor and move it, that they're ultimately approaching this like with a number. They're ultimately, the result is a number, but it is associated with some kind of conceptual idea here: low, medium, and high. So this would be an example of a scale variable, and most likely an interval level variable, because 0 is not the absence of anxiety, it's just low. One thing that is a common variable that a lot of people get, there's some debate in the field on this, and also there's a lot of confusion, is this Likert type variable. You can see Likert type variables have these options: strongly disagree, disagree, neutral, agree, strongly agree. There are a lot of iterations of that. This is a very common one. And you see this survey matrix where there's several different statements, and then the respondent will select the statements, the agreement with the statements as they go through the matrix. These are separate categories. Strongly disagree is a different category from disagree. Neutral is a different category from disagree. So it's a categorical variable. That means it could be either nominal or ordinal. But we can put these in order from lowest to highest, least agreement to most agreement. That's an ordinal level variable. Now, a lot of people will assign these ideas numbers and then take an average, and some people support that and others don't. From my teaching standpoint and my approach that I often take with statistics students is that's a really bad idea. If you have an average that lands somewhere between neutral and agree, what does that mean? You know, if you get a 3.5, for example, if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you get an average of 3.5, that doesn't mean anything conceptually, because folks responded in categories. You also need to analyze the data in categories in a similar way. And this is a very short survey, but I gave some ideas of scale variables, ordinal variables. These yes-no variables would be examples of nominal variables. There's probably a lot of other variables that could be nominal variables too that aren't in the survey. But you would find your level of measurement and create your data analysis based on that level of measurement. So knowing that I could do a mode or a median here in question 5 is helpful for me to understand what data analysis options I have for these survey questions. This is a very high level overview of levels of measurement and data analysis using central tendency. You'll be applying some of this work to your assignments this module. So good luck. Reach out to your instructor for additional questions and clarifications. Use your resources as well in terms of how you go about data analysis. There's a lot out there. And thanks for your time.